Hello everyone. Welcome to my part 2 video about Hulk and Thor. Now before I talk about Thor, I need to tell you all about my previous Hulk video. I understand that when it comes to live action, you can't really showcase Hulk and Thor as outerversal beings. Because it would take too much animating, time and energy to do that. It would also take lots of money and budget as well. So here's my idea. Get someone to do the action for Hulk and Thor. Make Hulk and Thor as strong as DCEU Superman. Hulk and Thor needs to be planet busters in live action. When it comes to live action, their fights don't need to be blowing solar systems or instantly blowing up planets or anything like that, but they should at least shake continents or destroy the city they're fighting in. Every Hulk and Thor fight should be epic and destructive. Okay, now with that out of way, let's talk about Thor. People are forgetting that Thor is a god. Let that sink in, a god. Marvel should have taken a page from DC and had people of Earth have the same reaction to Thor, just like how people of Earth reacted to Superman. It would have given the MCU so much deep philosophical meaning of what humanity would be if a god actually existed in real life. It would have questioned if other gods exist as well, or even challenge other religions if their faith are actually true. Another thing about Thor is that he is from a magical world. The MCU should have showcased magical elements in his movies, so that he would be different from the other heroes in Marvel. Comic book Thor is similar to Aragorn. Wisdom, loyalty, and honor. An epic honorable hero with pure heart. He's the chosen one. Rightly heir to the throne. He's also similar to Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Thor's movie franchise needs to be like a fantasy genre. Thor is one of most powerful beings in the Marvel universe. He's god of thunder, has plenty of victories, and all of his battles are epic. He and the Hulk are the most masculine heroes of Marvel. And I will say it again. Battles with Hulk and Thor are like Man of Steel, Dragon Ball Z levels of fights. Of course it would be hard to do it in live action, but at least make Hulk and Thor planet busters. Just like Man of Steel, you don't need to show these characters instantly blow up planets in their fights, but have them cause buildings to collapse and continents to shake. All of their battles should be epic to watch. They're not regular humans. They are beings with godlike powers. Thor also has a secret identity. His human persona, Donald Blake. In the comics, when Odin banished Thor, he took all of his godly powers away, making him a disabled doctor so that Thor could learn humility. Now, like I said before, the MCU need to make Thor's franchise as an epic fantasy genre. It shouldn't be another science fiction movie filled with advanced technology. We already saw that multiple times. This shouldn't be another Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor should have been a place where magic exists. Now let's talk about his villains and supporting characters. Loki was one of the best villains in the MCU. And Tom Hiddleston killed his role as the God of Mischief. The problem is that the MCU turned him into a good guy. He should have stayed a villain. Instead of a mystery series with Loki being a hero, how about an horror film with Loki as a villain in a slasher thriller type of movie? Loki is basically like Scar. And if you saw The Lion King, that's what Thor and Loki's relationship should be like. Don't turn him into a hero. Now let's talk about Valkyrie. Comic book Valkyrie is a proud, respectable, Asgardian warrior. And yet the MCU got Tessa Thompson of all people to play this character. Like, dude, this was an easy task. How can anyone get this character wrong? They could have gotten any actress to play this character that looks spot on to the source material and bring it to live action. Is Hollywood just afraid of being accurate? You already have a well-established character right here, Marvel. There is no need to change anything about this character. Next is MCU Malekith, and he is one of the worst characters in the entirety of the MCU. Comic book Malekith is a way better character than his MCU counterpart. He's basically the Joker on magical crack. Not to mention he has a cool and fun-looking design. They could have just gotten Zach Galifianakis to voice act the character. He's the same guy that voiced the Joker in that Lego Batman movie. While he does act similar to MCU Loki, they could have just made Loki a villain that wants to rule Asgard while at the same time still care about his family. Make him act more like a sociopath. Meanwhile, Malekith on the other hand doesn't give two craps about his Dark Elves brethren but sees them as a means to an end. Make him more like a psychopath. Literally, the only thing they have in common is that they are both clever and cunning. Loki is an agent of malice. He's a schemer. When he gets hurt, he winces in pain. Malekith is an agent of chaos. He's a brilliant lunatic. When he gets hurt, he laughs about it. Now let's talk about MCU Hela. MCU Hela is the daughter of Odin. She's sadistic, manipulative, and ruthless. Her powers being able to summon large and deadly swords. And while these traits are cool and all, there's one problem. In the comics, Hela is the daughter of Loki. Loki is her father, not her brother. Also, she's the goddess of death and rules a pocket dimension called Niflheim, where she collects souls and her powers are necromancy. She's not a fighter. Why did the MCU change this? I literally have no idea. It's literally not that hard to pull off. Could imagine how this would affect Loki's character when it was revealed he had a daughter. Also, it would better if she was Loki's daughter because that way it wouldn't been another evil child of Odin that has knife powers. Her powers are more like the god of war than a goddess of death. Now let's talk about Thor's best friends. The Warriors of Three. They get killed off by Hela and it is played for laughs while they are supposed to be in Thor's important supporting characters. They should have gotten way more screen time. Imagine if the Sonic movie had Team Chaotix and then all three of them get killed in a quick fashion and is played for laughs. There's also Balder the Brave. Thor and Loki's brother. The third son of Odin. And yet he is nowhere in the MCU at all. He's the second most important person to a main hero that is missing in the MCU. With the other important character that is missing in the MCU being Rick Jones. Now let's talk about the women in Thor's life. MCU Jane Foster is the main love interest for Thor. Comic book Jane Foster is the same except she's a nurse. She's basically a regular human in a world filled with superpowers. She's kinda like Thor's Mary Jane or Lois Lane. This would be a pretty easy character to write, but the MCU made her into a gender-bent character. Literally anyone could have wielded that hammer, Mr. Taika Waititi. Next, Lady Sif. Sif is another proud, respected and strong Asgardian warrior similar to comic book Valkyrie. She's another one of Thor's love interests. Sif and Thor even had a child named Torun. Yes, she's from another reality on the comics, but the MCU could have made her exist in the movies. Instead of making Thor have an adopted child. Sadly, the MCU puts her to the background. She's another important Thor character and MCU pushed her to the sidelines and completely forgotten about her. Finally, we have Enchantress. She's another Thor villain that wants to rule over Asgard but has a huge crush on Thor. She also has the powers to make men fall in love with her. And she's nowhere in any of the Thor movies. She could have been the main villain of the second Thor movie instead of Malekith. The MCU however decided to make her into a Loki gender-bent variant. How the writers didn't use any of these classic Thor characters is beyond me. All of these characters that could have been Thor's love interest in his movies and the higher-ups of Marvel didn't get any of these characters is insanity. It's truly insane how we never got Thor and the Enchantress meet at all. Another thing I want to point out is that Thor and the other gods of the MCU aren't gods at all. Basically ruining the concept of gods existing in the MCU. Again, let me remind you all that every Thor movie is supposed to be fantasy. That way it would be different from all the other MCU movies. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Iron Man should be tech sci-fi. Captain America should be action spy thrillers. Something to that extent. Thor should be Shakespearean space fantasy. Hulk should be thriller horror monster. Guardians should be space adventure. Making every Marvel movie comedic is a blunder. A missed opportunity to have each film be different and unique. Almost every Thor movie showcase has a clown to be laughed at. Never taken seriously and is seen as a joke. Making a mockery to the God of Thunder. This is not Thor God of Thunder. Comic book Thor would be embarrassed if he saw MCU Thor. A true piece of trash. MCU Thor acts like comic book Hercules. Comic book Hercules acts like a goofball. He's a big lovable guy who loves to go on adventures and battle. He also likes to drink and really gets around. I also don't see why they got the Grandmaster in Thor Ragnarok. He basically took the Red King's role from the Planet Hulk storyline. Comic book Grandmaster is a part of a powerful alien race that summons people from across the universe and makes them fight in crazy battles and go on crazy space adventures. They could have gave him a TV show where the Grandmaster makes lesser Marvel heroes fight in crazy death matches and go on crazy space adventures. Like an actual sports TV show of it. Grandmaster also has the power to bring people back to life, so even if a hero died in the show, they would just come back. Not gonna lie, that would be a good Disney Plus show to watch. As for Searcher, he's a big part of Walt Simonson's run and is the catalyst to Beta Ray Bill. I just thought Taika used him as a dumb joke and the movie's version of Ragnarok was a joke. Searcher's goal is the end of the universe, not Asgard. Now you might say this is nothing to be taken serious about. The MCU isn't like the 616 universe. While that's true, we are in a cinematic universe where we are able to bring comic book characters to real life. Why waste our time, energy, and money with jokes when we can finally see these epic stories told on the big screen? But the good news is we have Avengers Infinity War that finally redeemed Thor. Finally, we got badass Thor in live action. Yes. This is what I wanted. I loved it. The audience loved it. MCU fans loved it. Thor fans loved it. Marvel fans loved it. Wow. I can't wait to see how Thor would be like in Avengers Endgame. I hope they keep him like he was in Infinity War. Unfortunately, they turned one of the best characters in the MCU into this. They really did it. They turned this Shakespearean warrior god that deeply cares about everyone into a fat drunken a-hole. Does Marvel has a grudge against Thor and the Hulk? Like seriously. They really didn't need to do that. We should have gotten a stocky ripped Thor and a savage Hulk in Endgame. The MCU turned Thor into a clown. Endgame made Hulk and Thor into two of the biggest disappointments in the franchise. I don't want to be that guy, but I believe that Marvel Studios has an agenda. They turned Thor fat and then proceeded to make fun of male depression and completely feminized the Hulk. These two characters were completely humiliated by the MCU. As a Marvel fan, it makes me sad. And it didn't need it to be this way. What's worse, the MCU will keep on making all of their male characters losers to stroke their own egos. I don't want to talk about that trash of a movie Thor Love and Blunder. Of course they keep on making Thor a clown. MCU Gore the God Butcher is pretty much a forgotten villain in the movie. He could have been a great villain. For his live-action debut, he isn't a bad villain, but he isn't a good villain either. I wish they kept his ears like it was in the books, that way he wouldn't look like Voldemort, but it's not a bad thing. The problem is that Gore isn't seen as a genuine threat. Why not show him killing gods or destroying worlds? Why not make this film like an actual Thor film? It should have been an epic like Man of Steel. They also got Zeus, and dear God, what have they done to the ruler of Olympus? I don't even need to talk about his comic book counterpart. Everyone knows who Zeus is. How are you got to disrespect this legend by making him look like this? Zeus is the king of gods. Greek god of storms. The most powerful god of all time. If you wanted someone to play an imposing and powerful Zeus, get my boy Brad Pitt to play him. Then have Zeus and Thor have an epic Man of Steel Dragon Ball Z fight at Mount Olympus. Do you know how awesome that would be to see two of these godlike beings going at each other would be like? That would be way more interesting and exciting to watch on the big screen. Instead, we get Zeus flicking Thor's clothes off and make a joke out of it. Now here's the difference between the movies and the comics. The entire comic was proving how wrong Gore is, because Gore isn't just opposed to gods, he's opposed to faith. He wants to kill gods because to him they represent a false hope. But several of the gods, and even Gore himself, prove that this way of thinking is flawed. Faith and hope makes people stronger, not weaker. The movie, however, goes out of its way to prove him right. The gods are jerks and hoping they help is pointless. I don't know how they looked at the comic and said, yeah, let's do the opposite. When you're adapting the source material to live action, you need to be as accurate as possible. Do you see how people aren't complaining guys like Iron Man, Captain America, or Deadpool? Because the writers made them as accurate as possible. Not 100% accurate, but enough that they are still the characters we know from the source material. Why would anyone watch a movie about a character they knew from the source material only for the directors and writers to change them to an entirely different character? That's why you have fans complaining about guys like Ultron, Hulk, Spider-Man, Thor, Taskmaster, and many other characters. Almost every MCU character is changed in the most horrible ways possible. Movies hardly are 100% loyal to the original source, but wow, Disney is a master in deconstructing characters to fit their narrative. If you ask me, Disney is the true villain. Black Bolt is a great character, with a great backstory and a great importance in the Marvel Universe, but in one simple scene got clowned. Now every time someone talks about him, what mouth joke comes out of nowhere. People should be attracted to the original source through movies. Instead, Disney makes insane fan service and people buy it. But don't worry everyone, because I will give you a rewrite of what the MCU should have been like. What if the MCU was comic accurate? Next video will be the rewrite of Phase 2. As for the rewrite for the entirety of the MCU, that will come out in multiple videos. I'm almost done with it, so don't worry everyone. I really hope you all enjoyed this video everyone. Please press that like button and subscribe for the channel. Have a nice day.